And welcome, beloved mighty companions, to this holy light circle of light, infinite light being celebrating. This is reflecting on with Renee because we had heard where Jesus said, okay, now extend this book out, right, on Facebook. And you see that it's not for anyone, it's for, so beautiful. It's for infinite love celebrating itself. That's the only reason they don't do anything else. That's why it's so helpful for Jesus, because he tells me, like, don't spend any time on this, or, he's so supportive and helpful. And they were asking me, like, well, how did this text come about? And I was reflecting on it, and I realized the text was the easy part. The hard part is how much convincing Jesus had to do to get me to start listening. Like, that took years, like, to really, because I wasn't listening. We don't want to listen to Jesus, actually. But the chapters themselves, like, it just, like, in January, I started typing. That was all it was. Basically, I typed a chapter or something, and I shared it with another Course in Miracles student, long time, because a bunch of long time Course in Miracles students are at Namaste Lake Chapala, because I was staying there. And then everyone's asking me for more chapters, but then I didn't know any more chapters. I wasn't looking for write a book. It was just started typing. That was the whole thing. And then they would just come, and I guess so many people were asking me, I thought, well, that must be a prompt. And then I type, and then I heard, okay, you're doing light circles every day, twice a day, and so just said yes. And so some of the beings at Namaste saw all this happening because I just started typing. And then when I would go through every line with Jesus, I saw how many, like, beliefs that he was pointing to that it was like, oh my gosh, and I've talked about this before, like the one, like, you think your brother can tear heaven from you? And I saw it, it's like, yes, I do believe that. And there are so many that he's pointing to me, going, okay, you need to look at this. And so then all of a sudden it just, okay, now it's going to be a book. But someone actually asked me in May, Vicki Poppy, because she invited me to the Boston conference. She was speaking there. I heard to go, and then she said, okay, come talk in my session. And she was going to put it out as a book. There were probably maybe 15 chapters. And I heard Jesus said, no book. No book yet, no book. And I told Vicki, and she's so beautiful. She said, look, you follow Jesus. She's just such a great mighty companion. So I'm so grateful for the mighties that came in, because of the support, and we're reading the chapters, and it was just really helpful. And then again, just like about a month or so ago, I guess I heard, okay, a book. And then it was a collaboration here. We were going through it and listening, we put a period here, for every word. And I can see how this is the lesson over the last couple of days for me, is ask me, ask me, ask me. And that's how it was such good mind training. I'm grateful for it because, I just go, okay, is there a period here? And Anya she's got eagle eyes, so she'd see if I missed any caps or something. And she would ask about it, and then we could just go and say, okay, what do we do with each line? And I saw that too in the Ur text with Helen, how Jesus said, I will make corrections, but you have to ask me. And he told, it's just, that's kind of like the conversation has been in the Ur text. It's so beautiful because you can see how he just has this conversation with her and helps her with everything. And that's the way I feel like it is here. It's just a conversation with love, and guidance, this constant conversation. So felt really beautiful because it's kind of mentioned that, like I said, it didn't take long to write. It was more the convincing that took a long time. Like, it had to be right here. It had to be so convincing and repeatedly show me, because, I really wasn't stepping in so much. I don't know, maybe we can all relate to that, but now I'm in. Full in, no place else to go but home to Jesus. So tonight we're doing chapter 16 of New Covenant and acceptance of light. Contemplate with Jesus and thank him for bringing these beloved mighties. We're so devoted to seeing what's true. Oh, first sentence, infinite light is always calling you home to see that you are home. In the light of divine being, infinite light that's here. In the honesty of God, are we home? Is the light home? Infinite light. Infinite love. Is the light no limitation? Infinite light. Can we find one, an infinite divine being? No limits. No expectations. Nothing to do or change. I need do nothing. This is such an interesting play in consciousness between the one who needs to do, I guess that's my lesson lately, really looking at any doer coming into, because seeing how consciousness plays and getting involved in the awakening process. You know, and how helpful it is to look as divine light, as infinite love, to see does infinite love, light, need to do anything to be light itself? It's like Jesus, you're telling me I need do nothing, but you're giving me assignments. It's like, how do I reconcile that? And now I understand that he's teaching divine expression, to distinguish between the doer, and David calls it done through. I don't know if done through is in A Course in Miracles. Did he use that term? I don't think so. So David Hoffmeister uses being done through. There's no good word to express the movement of expression in its fullness. Because it's such a foreign concept, because there's an idea that there's someone, an object that does something, you know, that actually does something. And he's undoing through following and really listening, washing out the idea that there's a doer. Yet is the light of divine being can see, is there a doer in the light of divine being, infinite being? When we find a doer, it's like, oh, okay, there's a doer in there. Is there a doer, a little doer in there? I can't find it. Yet the ego is always doing something that is nothing. Oh, I thought we just did this one, but obviously I need to say it again because we're doing it again. I've been reading these chapters a couple of times. The good news is they get funnier and funnier. That's the good news. You start seeing those little mechanisms in there. Okay. Because a lot of this seeming journey can seem so darn serious, you know. For me, as I've told several people, when you look at my 2-year-old baby picture, it's pure seriousness, you know. I look serious at 2, you know. So it's good to laugh a bit about this and about the play and consciousness. And yeah, love, don't take it so seriously. That's what the lesson is for me, you know. Let's not take it so seriously. You're beyond seriousness. It's the light of infinite being. Can we find serious as a label in the light of infinite being? So, the ego is always doing something that is nothing. This is a burial ground pretending that life is form. Jesus, will you show me how the belief that life is form is in objects? In the light of divine being, can we find any life whatsoever in objects, objective experience? Life is our identity. Life is light. All that the light shines in and upon is light. Infinite, unchanging light. We're life itself as one, indivisible. Pretending that you have some function in form. This is another thing that can't be conceived in the dream. Because the dream is the idea that there's the function of a doer with a label on it. I am a doctor, a lawyer, Indian chief. That becomes part of the identity, it's dream identity. Whereas our identity is light, not as a collective, as what is, the light itself. And having Jesus reteach, I feel like that's the lesson, to relearn what function truly is. That function is identity. Our function, and Jesus says our only function is completion. This is the holiest function right here, right now, as it is, in its perfection. Love celebrating, because we can, because we are, just what is. You are beyond form. In the light of divine being, in honesty of God, in the light that's here, we beyond form, and hear the answer. Does the light of infinite being know what form is in our direct experience? Now it is time to look before form began, light, before consciousness arose. What is before consciousness? Peace. Infinite light. We can ask, in the light of divine being, is infinite light peace synonymous with peace? And here's the answer. All blessings before form, before the tiny mad idea. Consciousness being the tiny mad idea. I love how it's little, because when we think of consciousness, think of the universe being so huge, massive. It's a construction in consciousness. Have we ever seen the universe? We've seen pictures of it, and then that blooms as a picture in the mind that it actually exists. That's powerful, but not as powerful as the light. Is anything appearing in consciousness and our direct experience? Is anything more powerful than light? Divine light of being. And in our direct experience, is light the only thing that can be shared? Before the objection to timeless infinite being. That's what consciousness is. It's one big, I am not light. There's light, and then there's I am not that. That's all there is in a dream. The dream is I'm not light, infinite light. So the slightest twinge is the signal of dreaming. I am not light. And then, so Jesus then has to put out a book of 600 pages to show us all the ways in which consciousness plays to say, I am not light. I am an object. And so he has 365 days of lessons of thoughts of God. Help unwind us from the idea of I am not light. That single denial of light in a billion fragmented different ways through forgiveness to collapse the idea that I am not light is actually possible. So it's so believable because we desire an experience of believing that it's true that we're not light and that it's impossible to get back. That's actually a desired experience. We can ask them. Jesus, ask the light. Is consciousness a desire to experience it? It's difficult to recognize light, divine nature, and hear the answer. So there's a desired experience to play within consciousness and pretend like the light's not here. Yet we can see as the light circles and light beings coming together in the light of truth. It's all light. That there's only light. How can that be? Because we like pretending like there's no light, that the light is dead. Before the objection to timeless infinite being, pretending not to be itself as it is, perfect, whole, and complete. In the light of divine being, honesty of God, is the light complete and whole? Does it know what a fragment of itself is? Does it say, look, I'm not whole, I need to fix this? It doesn't say that. It just is whole, infinite light. Infinite peace, but because it's not valued and we want to boot ourselves out of heaven on a regular basis, then we need Jesus to show us all super consciousness, that part of ourselves that remembers that we are light, to correct this, correct the subconscious investment in saying no to light. Pretending not to be of the Father, insisting it is not of the Father. How can this be? Insisting you're not of God when there's only God. It's very humbling. Jesus showing all the ways in which I'm trying to duke it out with myself. But then we can just say, yes, okay, I get it. Yep, I was just having an argument with all of divinity. I want an argument with divinity, with myself about who I am. That's the whole gig. The I is wanting to have an argument with light. And so we can look as light and see, is it possible to actually have an argument with light? Does the light doesn't get in arguments. The light just is. And is it benevolent? It's benevolent. So it's not out there picking a fight. Yet the whole ego structure is made as though the light's going to get us. And all this fear and all this other stuff seems to come up on the spiritual journey. That's a desired experience, to experience fear. Yeah. As soon as that is seen and accepted, that's all it needs to be accepted in honesty of God. Oh, okay, I'm creating this. I want this experience. It will fall away quickly with full acceptance of no to God. How often during the day do you have it saying no to God? Yet, if we ask the part of ourselves, Jesus, to show us, remind me, he will. I mean, it seems to be simple, but we'll be reminded constantly if we're open to it. But if it has to be invited, we have to invite the light. I mean, we are the light until such a time where it's admitted that we're denying the light. We got to invite the light. Because if we look as the light of divine being, we can see that light is not going anywhere. It's there. It's not going anywhere. It's just light. Everything's light, nothing but light. And then there's the play in consciousness to deny the light. It's sort of, we were talking a bit earlier, it's coming up a lot around resistance, and to look at what resistance really is. It's just helpful to take resistance, the feeling of resistance, and then put it in the light of divine being just to see what happens to it. Because this comes up a lot in so-called spiritual journey. It's helpful to see too late you can resist, but you're still already light. That's why it starts getting fun. I just feel all this resistance. And you go, well, is the light still here? The light's still here, regardless if we feel resistance, whether we're upset, whether we're, and Jesus just says, this need not be, because you created it. You can just accept the light, the chapter, and cease to deny it. You believe in time. Never question, what is time? What is time? Does divine light know what time is? In our direct experience, can we find time in divine light? Seeing from the perspective of divine light will burn time out very quickly as an experience. We can see so clearly that it exists. So Jesus said, I think I can about resistance is a desire. It's actually, resistance actually a desire to extend out the delay. But you can't delay because you're already light. That's what's the humor of it is. We're already light. It's like too late, we're already light. There's nothing we can do about it. We can only pretend it's not here. And then go, what happened to light? I was feeling so good before. But this is the power of divine being, when what Jesus is showing us. Okay, you desire it, now it's appearing in consciousness. And we really get that. Like, okay, Jesus, show me the energy of denial. And just really be with that, be with Jesus on that. Like, because it crawls, I'm not explaining it, it just crawls underneath guilt and emotions. It just gets in there really where it starts. The desire for the experience. And just that energy right there, the desire to say no, to have an experience that says no to peace. You believe in time, yet you never question what is time. Is it known, or is this an idea? In the light of divine being, infinite light, is time, is it an idea? We can hear the infinite light response. Is time an idea? Is the infinite light midnight? Divine being. You believe in death, yet you do not question what is death. The ego doesn't want to look at death, because that's why Jesus, like every day, anyone who's going to the lesson knows, like, you're getting that lesson, we're getting that lesson. I am not a body, I am free. I am as God created me. To see that is the beginning of the collapse, to see that there's no death whatsoever. Yet, even though we see there's no death in the light of divine being, does anything die? That's just like the beginning. I thought, oh, I get this now. I really see there's no death. It's just the beginning, because even though we know there's no death, we can look in light and see there's no death, we still desire the experience of killing ourselves on a nonstop basis all day long. Killing peace, trying to kill peace, projection, however it appears in consciousness, suffering, grief, pain. That's all death. That's all the desire to experience death, even though we know there's no death. Nothing dies. You desire endings and beginnings. You love these experiences more than being as you are, already total love. That is, start admitting that to Jesus, starts delivering out those desires, and you're going, right. I really want to say no. Really. The divine light. And he says, and we've talked about several beings, starts getting really excruciating to say no, and I can see why it has to. Consciousness will pretend like it's okay to play in consciousness, because that little pleasure pain trick, I can be You know, this bad stuff's gonna last for a while, and then we know we're gonna get to the good stuff. The question is the bad stuff or the good stuff, or either of those real in the light of divine being? That's all we're checking out. We're just doing an investigation here. Or is that real? You believe in death, yet you do not question what is death. You desire endings and beginnings. You love these experiences. That is so direct. When you start seeing underneath pain is the itch to have it. It's like, oh my God, he's so right. I really want this, whatever it is. Really want this headache. It's like, oh, yeah, I really want this pain. You know, you just get to really being with Jesus on these things. And for me, that was just a watershed. Seeing, oh, I do like it. I really do. Because I could, you know, because, oh no, Jesus, no. I'm not doing this. I'm like, oh. He loves us anyway. They're more than being as you are already total love. You want to love and hate. You want to love and hate experience, like make experience. You know, this is the humor of it. Okay, so we make the little character comes over and says something that pisses us off. And then you look at it and you go, oh my gosh, I wanted that. I really wanted that experience. We really saying I hate it, but underneath, keep drilling down, you just see, oh, that was desired. And it's until that's forgiven down there, which we know, he told us for forgiveness, it just keeps showing up in consciousness, and then we're pissed off again about it. Until it's seen through as untrue, which is what forgiveness is. We just have to see that it's untrue, which we know because we're locked up, of course, students. You want to love and hate experience, to make an experience and hate it, to deny that you made it. This is very humbling. But it's the way out. It's like through the goalposts. When this is really seen, you know, get this one. That if the desire is the fast track, this is because then you see how powerful the mind is and how powerful thought is, which is the whole gig of what Jesus is talking about in the Course in Miracles. The wheel of samsara, suffer more and blame God, yet you want this experience. To be a victim and to be a victimizer in endless cycles, a vast wasteland of repeating cycles of denying true identity. All experience to deny peace is already here. All experience to swear that God has stolen eternal life from you and leads you down. Determined to protect the darkest and deepest corners of your mind, knowing it cannot bring you happiness. That's why that I can see for me that show me, show me, show me. I don't care what it looks like. It's just helpful. Because then no little corners of unhappiness can kind of stay in there. Or if they start coming back, we can really look quickly. You know, it's so profound. All Jesus is interested in showing us that all that stuff is zip, nothing. You know, then we start, it's hilarious because then we see, okay, I whinged about that. I dragged that out just as long as I could. Then it's funny, you know, because it's not funny when you're in it and you're hurting. And it's like, oh my God, I just feel so terrible. And what are you doing to me, Jesus? And you're screwing me over and all this kind of things. Really good. I'm upset. He knows, you know, that arises. Until you go, oh my God, I'm doing it to myself. Yet determined to experience it all, because you know that you cannot die. So, we know you can't die. So consciousness is going to dig around in there for a while. Yet you suffer, complain, and toil, resentful for what you have made. Beloved, there is only all in, for what you withhold from the light of truth, you only withhold from yourself. this is really the gig. Like, it definitely is. Just, oh my gosh, not wanting to hold anything from myself, really. Like, give it to me, Jesus, as much love as God can deliver, and just give me all the denials, just give them all. It's just so transformational, at least in experience here. Because that is where the fear is. The fear is not because fear of God, it's fear to prevent ourselves from actually looking deeply to see the fear does not exist. The light of divine being doesn't know what fear is. That was for me. I offered a means to quickly see that you have granted to you by heaven to drop the change and take your rightful place. Yet you must not hold back, because if you do, you're agreeing that you're weak. And this is really the habit, the agreement that we are weak. That's what not following the Holy Spirit, Jesus said directly. Do not follow the Holy Spirit is attack. It's agreeing that we're weak when we say no to following. That we're not divine beings by not following the Holy Spirit. That just put it in a whole new perspective here. We can only withhold from ourselves. So it like collapses the belief that there's anything out there that can withhold anything, that God's with anything, seeing that we're light, seeing that there's nothing to be afraid of, unless we make it up and pretend like there is. That's why it's really helpful to have Jesus clear all that. Show me every place where I'm afraid, let's just go. Because we don't have to live out the experience. We don't have to go have an experience and live it out. We can just search our minds. Like, that's why that search our mind, that's a gold mine right there. Because then he'll just deliver out, show me, show me, show me. That's why in the course, I was kind of getting that. Because the denial's here. It's already in consciousness. So I don't have to wait till the next explosion. We can just spend time with them and go, okay, show me where it is. And let the closets be clean. You are the kingdom of heaven unless you deny that you are. I have offered a means to quickly see that you have all the power granted to you by heaven to drop the change and take your rightful place. Yet you must not hold back, because if you do, you're agreeing that you're weak. That what you have created can harm you. Our own miscreation can harm us. We want that experience of being harmed by our own miscreation. Even though it's a light divine being, can we ever be harmed? Like, can we find that in the light? Light can't find harm, can't find attack. You are agreeing with your own delusions. This is a collaboration with what cannot be, kicking and yelling that you will be punished, denied, all when it is only up to you. He keeps coming back to the buck stops here. No place else to go. Yet that is the direct, that's the gateway. Taking it full on. Whatever's shown, show it to me, give it to me. It is only all been up to you to look carefully before time began to see that time cannot be without you. Even though the real beauty of this is to have the Holy Spirit retranslate time into holiness, holy purpose, to transcend personal identity. And then see the innocence, even if consciousness blows out the universe and just blows out, consciousness blows out a world, it's still innocent. That's really that's heaven. Seeing it all in the light of truth, that it's nothing ever happened, even if we blow out all the consciousness. dozens of universes. Which consciousness likes to talk about the next universe in a universe, and to go where no man has gone before. No man's gone beyond here, other than in the dream, in the holographic holodeck. Can't go anywhere. Ask the light, in the light of divine being. Is there anywhere other than here? Infinite light, a hologram. Well, we like it. We can play like that, really. We don't play like that. It just doesn't feel good after a while. We just get kind of done with it. To change, seem to change, but it cannot change without you. This time out, or even the concept of time, can that occur outside of us in our direct experiences like these? This was the twister. Here's the Jesus twister. When we see this time, how can time be known without the timeless? How can change be known without the changeless? Because if everything's changing, change can't tell that change is changing. It requires changelessness to see that something changes. What is relative cannot be known without what is beyond relative. Something relative to something else. Would it not be easier just to accept who you are, to celebrate that you are not some weak, perishable object, subject to the sands of time, infinite light as it is, everything pure and reflecting the magnificence of all the love the Father has bestowed upon you? Thank you, Jesus, for showing this. Everything pure and reflecting the magnificence. We're going, Jesus, convince me that I'm magnificent, when really we have to convince ourselves, because we're already magnificent. Infinite magnificence. Wanting an experience of not being magnificent, yet still remaining that magnificent. That's a mind twister. Amen. We're holy and there's nothing we can do about it. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Yeah.
Oh, what is on you?
Get rid of this.